Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Career Talk with Taylor. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the very first time that I ever got laid off and how to prepare if it happens to you. So whether you're working for a company or maybe you own your own business, here are some tips to consider before it happens to you. Before we jump into these tips, I want to kind of give you guys a background and what happened during the time I got laid off. I was about 19 years old when I first started working, and I was still in college. So if you could think about your 19-year-old self, or maybe you're 19 right now, when I started working, I was just so excited. I was right exactly in the place that I wanted to be in as it pertains to my career. I was very engaged in work, and I just took so much pride in what I was doing. Basically, my hobbies were my work. I also, like I said, I was in college, so if I wasn't going to class, I was at my job. And you know, I had a really great time. I learned so much. There were so many things that I didn't do growing up because I just thought that it would hinder what I wanted to do when I grew up in my career, which definitely motivated me, and I was definitely a very ambitious young woman when I first started out in my career. So this kind of heightens the level of the fall, basically, in my opinion, when I got laid off, because I wasn't even thinking about there being a reason for me to get laid off. I didn't think about being laid off at all. I knew that I wasn't going to be fired because I was doing such a good job and it was something that I wanted to do. I wasn't like slacking off or anything like that. I just didn't know anything about like getting laid off. So when it happened, it was just very devastating. Now I can look back on it and laugh because I've learned that these type of things happen all of the time. And in my situation, there were budget cuts that were happening, and the coordinator role that I had just was no longer going to be needed in the capacity that I was working and I was doing the job. Also, my parents lived like 10 plus hours away from where I lived. I thought I was going to go broke. The city I was living in was super expensive. And to make matters even worse, the lease on the apartment that I was living in with my two roommates was about to be up. So if I didn't find a place to stay or live, then I was going to be homeless and laid off. So that just made matters even worse and took my anxiety through the roof during that time. So as you can see, there was a lot going on that added to my fears about being laid off for the very first time. But I say all of this to say that there's going to be a time, or there may come a time in your career where your company is going to have to terminate some of its employees for a reason that has absolutely nothing to do with you and absolutely nothing to do with your work or your performance. And so because of that, you're always going to need to have a plan in place to accommodate yourself and your family if you ever are in a position where you've gotten laid off. So when you're building your career and you're preparing for possible layoffs that may happen in the future, the one thing that you want to make sure you have secured is your savings account. Now, we all probably have savings accounts that are already attached to our checking account that we may put $500 here and there in for concert tickets or tickets for trips or something like that. But as you're preparing and as you are starting to grow your career, you definitely want to make sure you have a very healthy savings account. So one thing that you want to look for when you are researching savings account is you want to make sure that the financial institution that you are working with or dealing with is trusted and reputable. So you either want to talk to a financial advisor or talk it over with a trusted family member or friend who can give you some good insight and kind of help you research financial institutions for your savings accounts. So you have online savings accounts, you have brick and mortar savings accounts, and you have banks that are very well known, like Citibank and Wells Fargo and things like that. The next thing that you want to look for when it comes to your savings account is you want to make sure you are going with one that has a high APY. So basically, an APY is your annual percentage yield. These institutions have high interest rates when it comes to the money that your money can earn while it is saved away in your savings account, or the interest that your money can earn while it's saved away in your savings account. So you want to make sure you're dealing with a banking institution that has a high APY and also low fees. So the fees that are associated could be any fees that banking institution may charge you for having your money saved away with them in their banking institution. So like I said, you want to make sure you have a high APY for that savings account, and you want to make sure you have low fees. That way your money is earning money while it is saved away, and you're not spending money on fees just for having your money saved in that bank. You also want to make sure that switching your money from one banking institution to another banking institution for a savings account is really going to be worth the move. So, for example, if the current banking institution that you have your money saved in has an APY of 0.06, then you want to look for banking institutions that have at least 1.4 or 2.4 annual percentage yield, because those are the banking institutions that have the largest jump for you, and your money that you have saved away is going to earn a lot more interest. So it may be a good idea to take your money and move it to a banking institution that has like a 2.4 annual percentage rate, because your money is going to grow and be able to accrue more interest in a banking institution that has such a high leap. Whereas if you just go from a 0.06 to a 1.4 or a 1.3 or something like that, it may not be enough money for you to make it worth moving your money from one banking institution to another, especially if the institution that your money is already in has other perks for you being with that bank. Also, you want to kind of give yourself a goal. So maybe you have $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 saved away in your savings account, and your goal is basically that you never go below that amount. So no matter how many expenses you have during that month or what you need to pay for, you want to make sure that your money you never touch your money. You always keep your money above $5,000 and never go below it. That way, when your big purchases come and you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house or something like that, you always have that money stashed away. And because it's in a savings account, it's going to be growing, and it's going to be growing in interest because you have it saved away. Now, there are also some other savings accounts that you can think about, like certificates of deposit accounts, and those accounts are really great too. The only thing that you kind of have to worry about or think about when it comes to savings accounts and certificate accounts is that a lot of these accounts, you're not able to touch your money for a certain period of time. So if that's something that you're concerned about, definitely look into that. And yeah, save your money. That's going to be very important when it comes to preparing for possible layoffs in the future. Building great relationships and networking while you still have a job is a great way to prepare for possible layoffs that may happen in the future. So you want to make sure you're building relationships while you still have a job. And when you're talking to people, you don't want to come off needy. You don't want to come off as fake, but you just want to have genuine conversations with people in your industry to get to know who's who and introduce yourself and make yourself known. I remember a time where this definitely worked for me. One of the internships that I had while I was starting off was a great internship, and then after I got laid off, I was able to use those connections that I made during that time to get my next job. So making sure that you build genuine, authentic relationships is going to be really, really important when you are planning for possible layoffs that may happen throughout your career. You also want to make sure that you are using unconventional ways to introduce yourself to people and to get to know people. So of course you want to be using LinkedIn, websites like LinkedIn, and you also want to be, getting out there and networking with people face to face. But one thing that I really like to do is to send people snail mail or send people letters in the mail where I introduce myself or I thank a person for an interview that I had, and I just share some things about them and their career that I admire. People are so surprised and impressed when you send things in the mail to them. Everyone likes to get mail every once in a while, something that has their name on it and something that's not just like a bill, spam, a coupon, or something like that. People do get excited when you send them mail. So Postablecom is a really good website that I use to send snail mail or send like letters in the mail. You just go on that website, you pick the card that you want, you type in the information that you want on the card, and you put in their email address, and this website just sends the letter to them. You don't have to worry about postage or sending it in the mail yourself. So it's really affordable, and it's an easy way to make a good first impression and introduce yourself in an unconventional way when you're networking and building relationships while you're preparing for possible layoffs that may happen during your career. If you're looking to find a job at like a company or a corporation or something like that, one thing that I find really helpful is I just make a list of all the potential companies that I could see myself working for or that I would love to work for, my dream companies. I make a list of all the people who are responsible for hiring, or maybe the people who have jobs that are similar to what I'm looking for or what I'm looking to do in my career, and I make sure I know who these people are. That way I can always reach out to them. If they have networking events that they sponsor, I make sure that I can go to those events, and I just make sure that I'm always keeping up with trends and news that are happening at these companies. This is the same thing for business owners. So just like when you have your own business and you're searching for the customers that you need to help your business grow, you want to make a list of your clients, your target market, and their characteristics and segmentations. So you make a list of all these things. That way that you can go after this specific type of person. You know exactly, where they like to hang out. You know where they hang out online. You know what type of music they like to listen to, and you know all about them, and whatever it is that you need to know about this client so that you can get your product or service in front of them. It's the same thing. Making sure you know who your target market is. That way you can go out, network with them, build relationships with them, and you're always able to have an incoming stream of leads if anything should happen. So it's very important to make relationships and to network throughout your career and just build genuine and authentic relationships with people so that if anything happens while you're building your career, like a possible layoff, you already have a plan of action to go ahead and move on to the next best thing. The next thing that you want to keep in mind when you are preparing for any possible layoffs that may happen is you always want to keep up to date with job openings, job requirements, skills that that normally change rapidly when it comes to certain industries that you may be in. For example, marketing and communications, that's kind of a segment that is always rapidly changing. law, investing, pharmaceuticals, economy, things like that. Those industries are always changing as it pertains to the standards that professionals have to maintain in order to just stay up to date with what's going on. So it's really important that you keep up with the job boards and just take a look at what some of these jobs are requiring. If you need to acquire a certain certification, if you need to acquire a additional degree, if there are certain things that people are doing in your industry that you just want to keep your eye on and maybe start to do yourself, just so that you are always up to date with what's going on and what other companies need, and what you can provide as your service or what you can provide as a product to companies or customers that are out there. You always want to make sure on a weekly basis that you're taking a look at like LinkedIn, Indeed, job boards, and things like that. You may even want to also become a part of industry associations. You may want to put aside a fund of money that you are able to use to become a part of some of these associations if your company that you're already working for does not already do that, because I know that a lot of companies already pay for you to be in certain associations and be a part of certain networking groups. Knowing this information is specifically important and essential because if you need to pivot in any way in your career, you're going to want to know when to do it and when is the right time to do that. So keeping up with what companies are needing at that time and being able to look at trends and see what's going to be happening down the line 6 months, a year from now, helps you to determine when is the right time for you to pivot into maybe a management role, a sales role, or some other aspect of that job, so that if anything does happen, like a possible layoff, then you're able to say, well, maybe I got laid off in this department, but I also am able to use these skills that I have acquired to go into management or be able to go into some other aspect of the job that may be needed. And now that you have these skills, you're able to just change department, or maybe whatever department that they laid you off for, you're able to say, hey, I have the skills, I have the certification to, assist you in this new department that you're building. Maybe I can, be an asset to you even still. And then your company, will see that you took initiative to learn the skills that, are going to be needed down the line. And they may even hire you on to do even more work. And that's actually something that has happened to me in the past. A company, after I got laid off, hired me in a different department because I had the skills necessary to transition from one department to another. Lastly, you're going to want to make sure that you're maintaining a very healthy work-life balance. When it comes to building your career, it's really exciting when you finally reach the career goals that you've always been working towards, because it feels like you've accomplished something that you've been working on for so long. But it's just as important for you to focus on yourself outside of work and make sure that you have a work-life balance that works for you. Be careful that you're not falling so head over heels for your dream job that you're not working on yourself outside of work. No company is going to want to hire someone that is so needy and desperate for a job with them that it's hard for you to let go if something were to happen, like getting laid off. Clients, customers, companies all need to be able to have the freedom to give you the loyalty based on the service or the type of product that you provide. If you're providing good customer service to your customers, then your customers need to be able to have that flexibility to then be able to give you support and loyalty based on that. So think about having a hobby or a side hustle that you do outside of your work, where you're able to always fulfill your own career goals without having to rely on a company to help you do it. Also, if you're ever laid off by a company, it's always easier when you have something outside of work to be able to go in peace. Just make sure you are negotiating and agreeing on terms of the job that you really believe in. That way you're able to always give your authentic self to a situation, and then when it's over, you're able to go in peace a lot easier than if you just had nothing else but that job outside of work. So guys, that's my story on the first time I ever got laid off from a job, and some tips and tricks that you can take to prepare for possible layoffs that may happen in your career journey as well. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and also give this video a thumbs up if you like some of the information you heard. Don't hesitate to drop a comment down below. Also, if you want to send me a personal email, you can shoot me an email. My email address is in the description box below. Make sure you hit the bell notification so that you're always alerted whenever I drop a new video on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.